talk about vocoders today. April, hi baby, how are you? April's a friend from New York. I haven't seen you in a million years, my darling. How are you? Hey April, we're going to talk about some technical stuff here about vocoders, how you get those great robot voices. So I hope you can hang along. Hey, Neil Kaplan from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, my old neighborhood. How are you too? Hello to everybody. All right, if anybody misses this or has to get up and run to the bathroom or something like that, then we've got YouTube will always archive this. I'll just wait for a couple of more people to click in. What's the time? 12:03. We'll wait a couple of seconds more, and my audio is low. Let's see. Let me make it a little louder. Is that any better? Let me do one thing. Hold on. Let me change something here in my system preferences and make sure my sound is coming in. Ah, there we go. You guys should be able to hear me nice and loud now. Is that better? Can somebody tell me if that's better? I had the input volume all the way down. 1, 2, 3. Testicles. 1, 2, 3. I know there's a little bit of delay. That's better. Okay, great. Just want to make sure it doesn't distort. I had the audio all the way down because I was using another audio input. All right, great. All right, cool. All right, so let's kind of move forward a little bit. So today we're going to talk about vocoders. A lot of people ask about that. What's a vocoder? It's something that makes that robot voice. So April, if you don't know what a vocoder is, that's when Kraftwerk speaks like a robot. So that's what a vocoder is. So we're going to talk about a vocoder and different applications of it and what it is and what the origins are of vocoder. And vocoders were actually invented in the 1930s during World War II as a way of communicating to the enemy. So let's see if we can move into what we're going to do. Okay, let's see. New software. There we go. This should take us over to our screen. All right. So, what is a vocoder? It takes your voice or any audio signal and superimposes another sound on top of it. So if you want your voice to sound like a robot, it'll take your voice and superimpose a synthesizer sound, and the combined sound sounds like a robot. If you want your voice to sound like a guitar, you put your voice in and a guitar, and your voice sounds like a talking guitar, which is different than the talk boxes when you sometimes see that tube that goes into somebody's mouth, like, what's his name? Peter Frampton, when he did that song. That's a different process. Actually, that's a speaker in an enclosed box that sends the sound up a tube, and your mouth forms the words and the microphone catches it. This is different. This is an electronic device and all that kind of stuff. So this little diagram here shows on the left-hand side, they call it analysis, but they have a microphone. And there's filters. In this particular one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 frequencies, and it takes the sound and it divides it into 6, filters it into 6 frequencies, and then sends it to the other side, which is synthesis, and that's where you're adding. This is showing a waveform, but it could be anything. It could be a synthesizer waveform. It could actually be somebody's other voice, which we're going to talk about how they now model and synthesize other people's voices. We'll talk about that in a minute, and that puts it out. The output goes to a track or to a speaker. So with a vocoder, they had some old vocoders that you basically was a little keyboard with a microphone. The microphone would go into the keyboard. You would choose a synthesizer sound, play the synthesizer, and it would combine it into a robot voice, if that's what you're doing. All right, so I'm going to pull this away. We're going to, I downloaded some text. We're going to go over the history really quickly of a vocoder, which is really kind of cool. All right, so I blew this up so you guys can see. And I'll read along. The development of a vocoder was started in 1928 A lot of people think, you know, Kraftwerk and this was a modern day thing, but it isn't. In 1988, by Bell Labs engineer Homer Dudley, who was granted patents for it, and that's the patent number, on March 1939. It says the application was actually submitted in November 1937. So it took 2 years for them to grant his patent. And to show the speech synthesis ability of its decoder part, the Vocoder was introduced at the public AT&T building at the 1940 World's Fair. It's consisted of a switchable pair of an oscillator, a noise generator, as a sound source of pitch, tones, and hisses. It had a 10-band filter. You remember on the other page I showed you that it broke the voices into these little pieces. That's the resonator filter, with amplifiers and manual controls, including a set of pressure-sensitive keys for filter control, a foot pedal for the pitch of the tone. The filters controlled by the keys convert the tone and the hiss into vowels, consonants, and inflections. It was a complex machine to operate, but with skilled operating, you could produce some sort of recognizable speech, and this is in the 1940s World's Fair, right? The vocoder was used, now this is important, in the Sigsaly system, which is built by Bell Labs, and it was used to encrypt high-level communications during World War II. That's how important a vocoder was. So the terminal was massive, and I have a picture of it here. It's going to be a little grainy because I blow it up. But this is what an early vocoder looked like. All right, here's another one here. This is the one, the black and white one. I could even blow it up more, but it's going to get really grainy. But this is what they used during the war. And I'll tell you exactly what it did in a moment. Right, but this is an early vocoder. Imagine having that in your studio. That'd be pretty amazing. All right, it consisted of 40 racks of equipment. It weighed 50 tons and used about 30 kilowatts of power, probably enough to power a small town. It had to be in an air-conditioned room. It was too big and cumbersome for general use, and it was only used at the highest level of voice communications. And you'll understand why in a second. A dozen of them were eventually set up all over the world. The first was installed in the Pentagon building rather than the White House, and it had an extension line so President Roosevelt, who knew Winston Churchill, could talk to each other during the day or night. The second one was installed 60 meters, 200 feet below a street level in the basement of Selfridge's department store on Oxford Street in London. It was close to the embassy on Grosvenor Square, so I guess they ran an extension cord, so to speak. Hey Terry, how are you? Let's see, it was used by General Dwight D. Eisenhower as a commander and Churchill before extensions were installed in the actual embassy, 10 Downing Street, and the cabinet war rooms. Once this was installed on a ship and followed General Douglas MacArthur, so it was probably a separate ship to contain this whole giant thing, during the South Pacific campaigns. In total during World War II, the system supported about 3,000 high-level telephone conferences. The installation and maintenance of the machines was undertaken by the specially formed members of the 805 Signal Service Company. It was a vocoder company of the U.S. Army, right? How cool is this? The system was cumbersome, but it worked efficiently. When Allies invaded Germany, an investigative team discovered that the Germans had recorded significant amounts of traffic from the system, but had concluded that it was a complex telegraph encoding system. All right, and it says at the bottom, a recording of Churchill talking to Roosevelt is on display in the House of Parliament. The timing of the recorded signal varies from what was received. The spoken words were added a very loud Beethoven recording, which can occasionally be heard. What that basically means is they were able to separate voice into little channels, and they could hide it or embed it in music, right? And when you played the music back and filtered out all the music, but that little specific channel, the voice came through. So if an enemy was listening to it, it sounded like Beethoven's symphony in this particular case, but when you passed it through the vocoder and channeled out everything but that one frequency, this top secret dialogue came through. Pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. All right, so I'm going to show you my original vocoder that I used for doing my first album, which has 6 simple synthesizers, man-made, heat stroke. This is the EMS vocoder. There's a lot of companies that made vocoders, and My particular vocoder, which you can see here, I have it in my storage facility. The two channels on the left were on the extreme left under the first green knob. That's where you put audio in, a microphone in. And then, I know this is blurry, but it's the only picture I have, and I could blow this up. The second green knob is where I put my synthesizer, which in my case was the Prophet 1, the Pro 1 synthesizer. And all these blue knobs and stuff were how much sensitivity, how much noise, and how it performed. You know, was it really sensitive? Was it lazy for a different type of sound, right? My particular vocoder that I bought, there used to be music stores on 48th Street between 5th and 6th Avenues in Manhattan. There was Manny's Music and Sam Ash, and I used to go there all the time. I was an equipment junkie looking for stuff, and I walked in and I saw this and I knew what it was. It was sitting in a case, and I said to the guy, you know, I played stupid, "What's that?" He goes, "I don't know. They brought it in from a studio, an electric light orchestra use it, but nobody knows what it is." And I know they were worth like $3,000 or $4,000, and I said, "Well, how much is it?" He goes, "Give me $50, just get it out of here." And I was like, "Yeah." So I grabbed this, and it became obviously the sound of the music I do, because I don't sing very well, right? So this is the original EMS vocoder. This is what I used on all my stuff. It had a great sound. It was particularly clear. I can't remember how many channels this had, but I think it had 24 or 30 channels, where most vocoders only had like 6 or 10 at that time, which meant the speech wasn't that clear. We're going to open up a Logic session. I'm going to show you a couple of vocoders and how to use them and how to practically make them work. EMS came out with a later vocoder, and I want to show you this, because this is almost the same vocoder, but if you look along the top here, here's all these knobs. Each one of those knobs, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, this has 16 channels. You can actually mix and blend each one of those filters by turning that knob. You could turn them all up, you could turn 1 or 2 frequencies up, you could start to shape the sound. So this was a EMS 3000 vocoder, and again, right at the front, like the other one, on the extreme left, there's the input for the microphone, and next to it is the input for the synthesizer or guitar or whatever you're using, and the rest of the stuff there is just how to make it respond to you. All right, so let's get over to our Logic recording session. I got a lot of stuff open here. And where is our session? Hello. Oh, it's taking a minute. There's a lot of things open. Let me quit a couple of these windows and make it easy. There we go. Okay, what we're looking at is Logic audio on a Macintosh computer. And for people like April and stuff, what this is this is a recording studio, a digital recording studio. All right. If are you getting a delay? That could be buffering. It could be. We got plenty of bandwidth here. That could be. Okay, so if my mouth is moving different than what you're hearing, that's probably YouTube's fault, because they may have a lot of people broadcasting live. I know there's a guy that broadcasts from Disney every day, goes into the park with his iPhone, walks around and broadcasts for 6 hours. So their servers may be hitting up. So don't look at my lips, because it might be out of sync, but that's nothing that I can control right now. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in just on this stuff right now. All right, so what I have here are speech. I opened up a microphone, and let me turn the vocoder off, and I basically did my track 6 Simple Synthesizers, which is one of my songs. Let me turn this on right now and loop this, and you'll hear just my regular voice. All right. I gotta turn up the volume.
6 simple synthesizers.
Now it's got the vocoder on it. Let's take it without the vocoder.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
Okay, so that's my voice. It's not a great recording. There's some mic popping. I'm just doing this as an example. If we were setting this up in the studio, this would be a much cleaner vocal. But there's my voice doing one of my songs, 6 simple synthesizers.
6 simple synthesizers.
All right, so I particularly like to use something called the orange vocoder. I can't make this window bigger because that's the way that the company made it. I don't know why I can't resize plug-in windows on certain people, but anyway, this is something called the orange vocoder. It's the same principle as my hardware vocoder. I'm sending audio into this, and inside this thing there's a built-in synthesizer. You can see the little keyboard down here. I'm going to play it, and I'm going to change a couple of the notes up and down. Right now the note is highlighted in yellow. By the way, if you're listening, please plug in earbuds or headphones and not cheap little speakers, because some of this may be very subtle and I want you to hear the differences on this. Anyway, so here's our vocoder. This is the one I use. A lot of companies make different vocoders, right? Is one better than another? I think, oh, April, you had to reload YouTube. Yeah, sometimes if you have a lot of stuff going on in your computer, if there's a background process, if your browser was open all day, it may not be buffering if you don't have a lot of memory on your computer. So you may have to stop and reload the page in YouTube, and the delay may stop, right? Especially if you have a couple of tabs open, or if you're watching videos all day. It may even pay to quit your browser really fast, open it up again, or just reload the page and see if that stops the delay. All right, so here we are on the vocoder, and I'm going to play it with the vocoder out, and then I'm going to drop the vocoder in. Down here there's a little yellow key, it's on C, and I'll go up and down a couple of keys so you can hear the difference.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
So basically,
Six
well, stop!
Synthesizers.
Stop! We could also make chords on this kind of stuff too. So if I wanted that to be a chord.
6 simple synthesizers.
I could bring it up an octave.
6 simple synthesizers.
Right? So basically, I'm taking a synthesizer and I'm applying the sound of the synthesizer to my voice. It's going through these filters. It's taking away. What's actually happening is it's taking a sound from a synthesizer and it's using my voice to open and close filters across several frequencies and forming the sound of the synthesizer sound, right? So I'm molding a synthesizer with opening and closing my mouth, and this is the result again.
6 simple synthesizers.
All right.
6 simple synthesizers.
Now, when you do vocoders, we'll get back to this in a second. I'm going to go to the next track. I think it's very important that you over-enunciate your speech. This is a muddier version of the same thing. I recorded this 3 times. That was normal. This is slightly muddier.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
It's not as clear, and this is what I call extreme, over-enunciating.
6 simple synthesizers. 6.
So that sounds a lot clearer than this track.
6 simple synthesizers.
If you're not listening with headphones, you may not hear the difference, but in a mix, this could be the whole world of difference. We'll take a listen to these 3 tracks without the vocoder on it. Now, I've learned from using vocoders, it pays to over-enunciate on these things. So if you're doing a vocoder and you go, I love you, I really do, the sky is blue, you know, it'll come out okay, but your vocoder may sound like, but if you over enunciate, I almost say it's like you're speaking vocoder. I love you, I really do, the sky is blue. What you're doing is you're forcing those filters to open and close, and you're getting better enunciation. Remember when they used to scream at you in class about enunciating? So this is the normal one, which you heard.
6 simple synthesizers.
Here's a muddier one.
6 simple synthesizers.
There's a little bit less S's, and here's an extreme version.
6.
Wait, let me turn the vocoder off on that so you can hear the original.
6 simple synthesizers.
Now, if you hear my voice went up a little like this, because I've learned from using vocoders that helps trigger those filters a little better. And if you remember from previous classes, our ears are sensitive in the mid-range by evolution. You know, help, I need help. Human ears hear in a frequency somewhere around here. That's why when people yell, they automatically take their voice into this area. People don't yell like this. People yell like this because that's where our ears are sensitive. If you use that and apply that to a vocoder, which I did here, you're going to get better quality. So let me go back to this one, which is
6 simple synthesizers.
as opposed to getting a little more nasal.
6 simple synthesizers.
Sounds funny, but when you apply that vocoder,
6 simple synthesizers.
you can hear all your S's and T's and all that kind of stuff. The vocoder also gives you ways of making adjustments. Now, this particular vocoder I love. The thing about this vocoder that I love is it has different vocoders built into it. If you're watching on a phone, you may be able to broadcast this or screencast it up to your TV if you're at home, with the screencast, and this will blow it up on a big 30, 40, 50, 60-inch screen, whatever you have, right? If you have an iPad or an iPhone, try to turn it sideways into landscape mode, make it full screen, that kind of stuff. Okay, so this vocoder has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different emulations of vocoders, and what it's doing is it's shutting off different channels and using different circuitry to emulate different types of like old school vocoders. So I'm going to set this to the lowest setting.
6 simple
That's not the lowest. Here it is. Now, why would you want that? Maybe you just need some sort of a synthesizer effect where a sound is playing and you're going wow, 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 and you're not really using speech. That might be really cool. Now, it has this vocoder has a little trick where it separates the S's and the T's, and it'll pass those through, and I'm going to turn that on. If you're listening with headphones, all of a sudden the S's and the T's came in, which suddenly made it more understandable, right? I'm going to go up to the next level.
6 simple synthesizers.
It's getting clearer. This is another one. This is a later generation.
6 simple synthesizers.
It's probably as clear as my EMS vocoder. I'm going to come up in the year. We're moving up through the years.
6 simple synthesizers.
Now you notice more detail is coming into this. Here's their version of a vocoder.
6 simple synthesizers.
And then they have the very latest version.
6 simple synthesizers.
Very subtle difference, but I'll play the very first generation to the most recent.
6 simple synthesizers.
That's probably what Winston Churchill and Roosevelt heard when they took the voice, extracted the voices. It didn't sound like a voice, but it sounded good enough to send a message, go bomb Germany. So we'll play that again, and then I'll play the newest one.
6 simple synthesizers.
and the latest generation.
6 simple synthesizers.
Now you can go in here and change different waveforms and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that right now because I want to move along and show you some other stuff, right? So, say you have a song. That's all one note. How do we go in and make that vocoder sing to your music? Well, I've set up a vocoder to do that. I will play this for a second and then we'll go back and analyze it. This is the same settings, right? But now these are MIDI musical notes. These are musical notes in here. Let's see if I could zoom in on this, get this nice and big. Okay, well this, yeah, it's about as big as it's going to get. Each one of these represents a note.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
Now I purposely did this so it's going to cut out, because when you put notes for a vocoder, there's a space between the first note and the second note here. See that gap? If the vocoder isn't told to say something, it won't produce a sound, and we're telling it to say something by pushing down a key, right? You could see it here clearly.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
So how do you fix that? Well, first of all, this is in the wrong place. This needs to come here and become seamless. So the back of one note touches the next note. All right, let's see, this should, yeah, this should be there. This should probably be here. I'm tightening up and quantizing or fixing the audio.
6 simple synthesizers.
If you notice, I lost the first S and 6. It's X.
6 simple.
Well, that needs to come over here.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
I think if we open the vocoder here, we should see the notes appearing on the keyboard here. Nope, take that out. Let's see if this is... Let's get this to play.
6 simple synthesizers.
I actually transposed it.
Simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
Now you don't have to...
6.
You start playing with the notes. This is how we do vocals on tracks. So if I was doing a robot voice, I would go in and I would attempt to sing it. You know, you don't have to sing it. You could just talk through it. Baby, I love you. Baby, it's cool. Baby, I love you. It's time to go to school, or whatever you're singing. Then I'd have to go in and place every note under every thing that I was singing, or I could play it on a keyboard, right? So it's probably easier if you go right in and you, sometimes you could do it live if you set it up right. Baby, I love you. Baby, it's cool. Baby, I love you. Let's go to school. You know, and then you can go back into this editing mode and make sure that all the notes are touching each other so you get clarity. One of the things that I do for vocoder when I bring a voice in, oh, I need to show you side chaining. So obviously on this green track, there's no audio. Where's the audio coming from? You know, where's the voice? I only see musical notes. Well, in the vocoder, most of these plugins have something called side chain. If you're on a small, screen, you won't be able to see it. But I'm going to click this, and these are all my tracks in here that are available in this recording session. And I've taken my normal audio. I could switch it to extreme audio, and it'll be a little clearer. And what that's doing is that's going back and grabbing the audio from this track right above the yellow track, and it's combining it with the vocoder, which is on the green track, to get
6 simple synthesizers.
all right. And that's done through something called sidechain. That's a whole other session we can do, and we can talk about sidechaining and another thing, but that's how you get audio into basically a plug-in keyboard. All right. Now, you got that. You can always put a little reverb on it.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
Now, one of the things that's important to me when you use a vocoder is I put a compressor before the vocoder. We're going to talk about compressors, but what a compressor does is it evens out the volume. Because you don't want your vocoder to be like this in volume, you want the volume to be nice and even, so it drives those little filters really well. All right, so the compressor keeps the volume nice and even. The vocoder becomes understandable, and sometimes people will put a compressor after it to keep that again nice and even, but there you go. All right, let's move on a little bit. I want to show you how you can take drums. Vocoders are not only for voice, all right? So you can actually take drums and process them through a vocoder. It doesn't have to be drums. It could be anything. You could take a guitar and do it through a voice, and when you know, on the voice it's ah, and then the guitar is playing ah. You could take anything and superimpose it on top of anything else. So as long as the anything else, the source, is somewhat constant, then you could, in theory, take one person's voice and superimpose it on another person's voice, and I'm going to show you that later, where you change the sound of one human being into another human being, which is done with fancy neural networks and new technology. But let's get back to the vocoder drums. So this is a drum loop that I have here, and I'll play it. It's a drum loop I made. So you could take this and actually put a vocoder on this. And I'm going to throw a vocoder on this right now. Let's open the vocoder. You're not going to see much of anything, but you can hear it. I'm going to change the notes. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so there we go. We've got a vocoder playing drums. Now, can we apply MIDI to this and side chain it like we did in the other thing? Of course we can. What if we played MIDI notes underneath that drum thing? So here's that MIDI thing again. Little different bit of notes. This is vocoder drums. And remember, by feeding it different kinds of EQ, you can actually mold and change the sound of these of the drums and what's happening. You could add delay lines and things like that. I'm going to put some delay on it, and all of a sudden you've got instant Kraftwerk if that's what you're doing. I just put a flanger on it. Say hello, monkey. So this becomes a very powerful way to use vocoder. It doesn't have to be a keyboard and drums. It could be something with a something, and you can get some really cool custom sounds. So what I did over here is I made a little. Let's go back to this track. Yeah, I know. Let's go back to this track, and I'm going to show you how I did what you just saw or heard, which is this. So I wrote a bass line. Instant song, right? me throw in a little chord thing going on here, and you got an instant track. So as you can see now, we can go back and I doubt, I don't even know if this will work with it. Let's try 6 simple synthesizers on top of it. I'll copy and paste it 2 or 3 times and see if this works. Let's see if we can add, I doubt this will work musically, but let's see if this works. It's gonna be kind of interesting.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
Instant song, not instant song. You got to work at it a little bit. So that's other uses for vocoders. There are different companies that make vocoders. I think I have 1 or 2 other ones in here. I never use them. Let me see if I could find another one, and you'll see the sound will change. I think this is a vocoder, if I remember. Yes, this is another kind of vocoder. The principle of this vocoder is the same. It's just a little more stuff on the screen. All these things down here at the bottom, these are all faders to turn on all the channels. I have no idea what this is going to sound like, but let's go ahead and solo this and see.
Simple synthesizers.
Okay, so this is their vocoder, and let me go ahead and we'll play with some of these knobs in here and bring them down. Make that a little louder so you guys can hear it. And if you can see the red lights flashing, it's basically, I wonder if this, can I make this bigger? Display. Let's see if, no. Not bigger. Can I make this bigger? Make it bigger, please. I guess I'm on the biggest display. But I'll start bringing up some frequencies.
6 simple synthesizers. 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 6 simple synthesizers.
So this is another type of vocoder. There's a lot of different companies that make these both in hardware and software. Does it make a difference what you have? Depends what kind of sound you're looking for. If you're going for a real old school, you can probably use a hardware synthesizer or something like this. Sometimes I actually use vocoders underneath vocals to fatten them up, and I don't want it to sound robotic, so I use the newer generation of vocoders. What I liked about my orange vocoder is it gave you the capacity. Let me load this up again. It gave you the capacity to switch between old school sound and new school sound with this. So if I wanted to use this under vocals, I need it actually clear, and I don't want it to sound too robotic. If I wanted to go for a Kraftwerk vocal or a early man Parrish vocal, if you're going to call it that, I would go to one of the earlier. Well, that's too early. Let me lower this down.
Synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
So there you go. Now I want to talk. Sometimes you can. You don't have to use. Oops! I just lost our chat room. Anyway, oh boy. Let me see if I can find our chat room. Give me a second, guys. Here we go. I think it's this one. I can't find the chat. I lost the chat, guys. Anyway, I should be able to follow along. There'll be a delay. So when you're putting together these kind of vocals, they're synthetic vocals, you don't have to use vocoders. Okay, so you can use effects other than vocoders. I'm going to turn the vocoder off on this. We're going to go back to this.
6 simple.
It has a click in it because I was recording it with a click. Let's use this one. Let's turn the vocoder off, and I'm going to show you other ways to make vocoder-like sounds, which is like what they used in Planet Rock. Rock, rock, Planet Rock.
6 simple synthesizer.
I know it sounds silly. So we're going to go in and we're going to use a delay line. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to use a flanger. Okay, and this gives you that jet sound.
6 simple synthesizers.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the mix 100%.
6.
And I'm going to get some feedback going here.
6 simple. 6. 6. 6.
Wait, I'll get this for you guys.
6 simple synthesizers. 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 6.
So that's type of an electronic voice you could do. You can go into delay lines, and let me see, let me get an echo going here. And by using a delay line, you can cause it to feedback and create the rock, rock, Planet Rock.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple.
Does this not go fast enough? No, this doesn't go fast. I got to find a delay line that goes quick enough to give us a feedback. If this doesn't work, I got to find one. Here we go. Okay, this should be in
6.
Okay, and we turn the feedback up.
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple.
These only stop at 16th note. How do I get this off? Give me 1 second. Tempo sync. Let me take it off. There we go. Let's get this way down, and you can get
6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers. 6 simple synthesizers.
a little too much feedback, but you can actually tune this and you get that old, the rock, rock, Planet Rock kind of sound.
6 simple synthesizers. 6.
So you could mix the output, let's say, and no input. Let's see if this makes it more just effect.
6 simple synthesizers.
And a lot of these things you can get in here, and you can make that reverby kind of sound. You could do it with reverb rooms and stuff. You can also use text to speech. A lot of your computers today, let me see if I open up a text file. Let's see if this will work. Got a lot of programs here, right? Let's open this. Let's make a new file. Actually, let's just take the file that we had. Let's grab a piece of audio and let's ask it to speak. Font spelling service speech. Here we go. Start speaking.
He filters control by keys, convert the tone and the hiss.
Okay, that's a little too fast, but you get the idea. You can go in there and you can use your computer, right? I have it fast because if I want to read something, I just have it read to me really quick. Oops, come on. You highlight the text. On a Mac, you right-click. This is available on all Macintosh computers. You tell it to start.
This was a complex machine to operate, but with a skilled operator could produce recognizable speech. 7. Media 1. Dudley's vocoder was used in the 6 system, which was built by.
Okay, and you can go in here and you can go into your preferences file. Let's see if we could find speech. I think it's under accessibility, speech, and then I have it really fast. let's put a girl's voice on this. Okay, and now let's ask us to speak this again. So what you're going to do with this is you record it to disk, right?
This was a complex machine to operate, but with a skilled operator could produce recognizable speech. 7. Media 1. Dudley's vocoder was used in the 6 system, which was built by.
Okay, so what you do with that is you can actually record phrases onto that you want to speak. You could type it into a text editor, and then I use a program called, let's see if we can pull it up here, Audio Hijack. I think it's like $10 or something like that. And this allows me to record whatever I want from wherever I want. So in this particular case, it's system audio, but I can grab something off of a text editor and it'll record it either to a MP3 file or a WAV file, and I have it going to my desktop, right? As long as you're not overloading. So I can take a whole bunch of speech, type out some lyrics, and record it in multiple different voices. I could then take those audio files and drag them like I'm doing with this yellow thing, just drag it into audio, right? And then on Logic and a lot of things like Ableton, let me zoom this in so you can see this. This is the audio file. I can go in and turn on what's called elastic audio. And then I can go in and I can start moving pieces of the audio around so that this runs in sync with the music, right? So now I'm taking text and I'm making the text fall in line with the music, right? This is a long way of doing it, but it's an interesting way of doing audio, synthesized audio, if you don't want to use a vocoder, all right? And then what I could do is I go into this mode called pitch. Now, if you see here, first of all, let me make all this set perfect pitch on everything. Let's select all of this. I'm going to select all, please. I think I got to do it with the mouse. I'm going to make everything perfect pitch. Well, set all to perfect pitch. There we go. Okay, so we're going to listen to this and I can change the tone of the voice.
6
Let's take that off of there.
6 sample synthesizer.
You see I was going sample. That's because we changed it. But let's change the... I'm going to change the tone. I'm actually moving pieces of audio like I would a musical note. All right, you can hear it. Sometimes it plays it, sometimes it doesn't.
6 sample synthesizers.
If you want to. Another way to do it is just record your vocal and drag everything down to some weird frequency.
6 sample synthesizers.
Let me make that louder so you guys can hear it.
6 sample synthesizers.
All right. So one way of doing a robotic voice, let's drag the audio down there.
6 sample synthesizers. 6 synthesizers.
Take the word. So you can go in and you can take your text that you did from your simple text and start fucking around with it.
Synthesizers. Synthesizers. Synthesizer. Synthesizers. 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 Synthesizers.
I don't know if you guys can see. I'll try to blow this up, but this is in Logic. This particular note here has a, let's see, will this blow this up? No, it won't. Well, let me see if I could get this a little bit bigger for you guys. This particular note, I think that's the biggest this will go. There's a little line up here, and it's showing me that the voice is going down. So I can actually take that, and let me just grab this note, this word, and you can actually change inflections on the word.
Sirs.
Let's make this a little
Sirs.
That's his synthesizers, that's your sirs and the synthesizers.
Sirs.
Let's go and get the...
Sirs.
So I'm changing individual inflections,
Sirs.
right? So this gives you amazing control on
Sirs.
on inflection. So if you had the patience,
Sirs.
you could go in here note by note, word by word, which is what I often do. It's like needlepoint.
Sirs.
You could also take singers and do it that way too.
Sirs.
You know, you could actually, let's bring.
Sirs.
So if that voice was the word robot and I wanted to stretch it out,
Sirs.
you see you're starting to get Kraftwerk voices. So that's another way without using a vocoder. It's a long way around, but this is more customized. This doesn't sound synthetic, right? Put some delay on it, put some, let's get a delay on here. Not this kind of delay, we'll put a stereo delay on here. I like to use the UVI, relayer, mono to stereo, and let's make the sound, like that.
Sirs.
Let's get out, and now you're starting to develop a custom vocal sound that nobody else has, because if somebody else has a vocoder, you don't.
6 sample synthesizers. 6 sample synthesizers. 6 sample synthesizers. 6 sample synthesizers. 6 sample.
Okay, so you get the idea. There's a lot you could do in here. You can go in here and start. Just got home from work. Another day in Florida. Okay, hey Louise, if you missed this, this will restream on YouTube. All right, you'll be able to go back, and we did a whole thing about vocoders. So let me just show you some artificial speech while we're here. We did the drums and the music. Let's get out of this. So everything you're going to hear now is now artificial speech from a computer. And the way they do that in the old days, or with Siri, is, well, what they used to do is record vowels, consonants, breaths, pa, ha, ta, ba. They had a system of doing it. And when you would put it together, the computer was grabbing little snippets of audio and piecing together words. It knows an M was always a M, and an A was always an but if it was an A if you were saying apple, and an if it was some other kind of English structure and stuff like that. Now they have these very advanced neural networks which analyze speech and use very fancy filters and oscillators. I'm going to play you a whole bunch of different speech that's made from synthetic, from computers. Even the technology is so great now that it's indistinguishable.
The buses aren't the problem, they actually provide a solution. The buses aren't the problem, they actually provide a solution.
If you're listening with headphones and you're experiencing stuff, I can hear very, very, very slight glitches where it's pulling up the next fragment of audio, because I've been doing this 45 years, right? But this is when you call on the phone and you're on hold with AT&T or Amazon or some company, your cable company, and it asks you, do you want to, what do you call? Like if you call Apple, it says, I'm an automated assistant. You can, tell me anything. And it analyzes your voice and uses a fancy computer to resynthesize voice in a very natural way.
The buses aren't the problem, they actually provide a solution.
Now the history of this, we all know Stephen Hawking, a scientist in the wheelchair. I never know why he didn't upgrade his voice computer, but I heard that that's because he thought that was his unique voice and never wanted to change it. He started with a very primitive voice synthesizer, and this is in the old days. It's almost like a vocoder.
We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe. That makes us something very special.
Now, obviously, that's difficult to understand, right? It's kind of really difficult to understand, but if you're around somebody with a voice synthesizer like that 10, 20 years ago, you kind of get used to their voice. It's almost like somebody speaking with a foreign accent, and you kind of get used to it, right? So Stephen Hawking had great technology because he's a brilliant, astrophysicist, scientist, but he chose to keep his voice in this old school way because that was his vocal cords.
We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe. That makes us something very special.
Now, with the newer technology, there's these things called neural networks, and you can Google it, but it's advanced computing algorithms that start to almost think like human beings and can analyze instantly what's going on. Now, here's an example of an early neural network where they take Trump and Obama having a conversation, and is this it? Is this it here? I think it's this one. Yeah, and Hillary Clinton comes in. Doesn't sound exactly like them, but if you listen to the Trump, he's got his inflections and it's got some of Obama's inflections. I'll play you the later one, but this is supposed to be Obama first talking to Trump, and they're talking about this artificial voice, and then Hillary Clinton clicks in. There's a later one which is even scary.
Hey Doc, have you heard about this new technology?
Are you speaking about this new algorithm to copy voices?
Yes, it is developed by a startup called Lyrebird.
This is huge. They can make us say anything.
Hey Doc,
Wait, I got a loop on here. Let me take the loop off so you can hear the whole thing.
have you heard about this new technology?
Are you speaking about this new algorithm to copy voices?
Yes, it is developed by a startup called Lyrebird.
This is huge. They can make us say anything now, really anything.
The good news is that they will offer the technology to anyone.
This is huge. How does their technology work?
Hey guys, I think that they use deep learning and artificial neural networks.
Hillary is right, and I can tell you that their team is great.
I wish them good luck. I'm sure they will do a good job.
So what that is doing is they've analyzed Trump's and Obama's inflections, figured out where the bass frequency in his throat is. They're emulating that, but putting speech, almost like a very fancy vocoder on top of it. So as they say in this thing, it's pretty scary because now we could put words into anybody's mouth. That was a little while ago. This is the newer version of it. This is even scarier.
I'm not a robot. My intonation is always different. I am not a robot. My intonation...
All right, so what this is several instances of Donald Trump's analyzed voice that says, I'm not a robot. You know, there's 5 or 6 of these, and then there's 3 or 4 or 5 of Obama's.
I'm not a robot. My intonation is always different. I am not a robot. My intonation is always different. I'm not a robot. My intonation is always different. I am not a robot. My intonation is always different. I am not a robot. My intonation is always different. I am not a robot. My intonation is always different. I'm not a robot. My intonation is always
Now I think
different.
this is Obama.
I am not a robot. My intonation is always
This is
different.
Obama.
I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. A robot, my intonation is always... I'm not a robot, my...
A robot. My intonation is always different.
I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different.
So, how scary is that? Now, you don't even need to have somebody talk. You just need a sample of their voice. It analyzes with these very complex computer, they call them neural networks because they're advanced computing networks with advanced algorithms. Your voice is basically broken up into what is called a resonant frequency. It's the sound that your vocal cords make in your particular nasal and throat cavity. That's why I sound different than John, and John sounds different from, you know, Susan, and Susan sounds different from Miss April if you're still watching, or Lewis sounds different from Paul and DJ Moon, because we have this sound. It's almost like a trumpet, right? You know, trumpets, you know, shape, or you can shape sound. Well, our voices and our nasal cavities and sinuses shape our voice. That's why your voice is distinguishable. And there's a bass frequency in there that never changes, which is your cavity. I'm trying to figure out a way to explain it to you guys so you can understand. The bass cavity in your head always stays the same, but the pitch goes up and down. So there's two parts to your voice. The AI computers, yes, AI computers is based on, the new ones are based on neural networks, because they not only give an example of, they not only give a result, but then they look at the result, think about it, and figure out the next move based on the result. Could it have been better? If I said yes, but does yes mean maybe? Does that maybe mean more yes and more no? So it takes a computer is all it does is math, and it's calculating yes or no. It takes yes, and then a neural network comes in and sideways looks at whether that yes is a maybe, that yes is a no, it's 3/4 this way, and it reanalyzes it and stores that knowledge back into itself, artificial networks, and the next time a yes or no question is asked, it's learned that a yes could maybe be a maybe, or a maybe no, or a maybe yes, or sort of kind of. That's what artificial intelligence, and this is what this is more of a neural network, but it may have artificial intelligence in it. Anyway, your voice has that bass frequency and the pitch that goes up and down. This has taken Obama's and Trump's voice, left that bass, modeled their face, right? They basically have a mathematical model of the inside of their face by listening to their voice, and then they put pitch on top of it, and you could make somebody say whatever they want, you know, simply by typing the text in.
I'm not a robot, my intonation is always different. I am not a robot, my intonation is always different.
Now, this sounds a little synthetic because it's new technology. Give it 3 or 4 or 5 years, you know. You could probably pretty soon, in the next 2 years or 3 years, you could probably just speak the lyrics into some sort of a plug-in and play the MIDI notes, and it'll be actually a voice. The primitive versions now are what we call auto-tune, and like the T-Pain effect, you know, where it takes the voice, it takes little audio slivers of it, and tries to pitch it up, and it has to stretch vocals and compress vocals to get higher notes and lower notes, like a tape speeding up and slowing down. And if there isn't enough sample left, it makes like a little loop to stretch the voice out. And that's why you get that T-Pain synthetic effect. But these neural networks know what the voice sounds like. And if the voice is up there and shorter, it knows how to take data out and still keep it sounding the same. Or if you're going down into a low voice, you stretch that voice out. But the original sample's this big that they analyzed, but you need this much. So it's got to put data in over here to make it happen for your song, for instance. But these neural networks are working completely different. It's taking, it builds a model of somebody's head and throat, and just has synthesized vocal cords, basically, and it's taking your head and putting vocal cords in it, and you can sing or talk or do whatever. So that is basically vocoders and synthetic speech, and other ways you could use vocoders. And if you don't have a vocoder or want to get experimental, like needlepoint, you can go in and change note by note like we showed you back in here. If you've missed any of this stuff, you can archive it. I mean, it's archived on YouTube. And are there any questions, you guys? I'm surprised you stuck around through all this technical stuff. You guys are awesome, man. But let me tell you something. If you want to do music, or even if you're just a really good music listener, knowing this stuff really helps, because if you know your musical, not history, but if you know how this stuff is made, but you're not a musician, you get to appreciate even more when somebody's doing stuff. My SoundCloud is Man Parrish, SoundCloud, it's Man Parrish -1. I do a bunch of classical music with choirs. I'm not standing in front of a choir and conducting an orchestra. This is high level, advanced sampling and all that kind of stuff. But if you understand what it takes to do this stuff, you appreciate the music at another depth. If you're writing this music and you understand the history of this, you know, you can say, ah, fuck it, just tell me how to use a vocoder. That's great. But it's sort of like an artist who, you know, I never studied art, I'm just painting, and sometimes you get lucky. But the real artists know their history, know their tools, and know the history behind it. And that's why I'm doing this stuff for you guys. Okay, let's see. What happened to the Barbara Tucker mix we were working on a few weeks ago? Well, basically what happened with that DJ Thomas is YouTube flagged my channel with a copyright strike. And if I get a couple of copyright strikes because I'm using Barbara Tucker's voice without her permission, they cut me off, right? And I didn't want to risk the channel being shut down because I used somebody else's music. So these become more and more hard. I've heard stories where, like, I want to show hip hop bebop, but it probably flagged me for using my own music, and you have to go through this whole appeals process and stuff like that. Hey, DJ Spidey, if you watch the stream, you'll get some great information on vocoders, synthetic voices, the history of vocoders, and all that. But that's what happened with the Barbara Tucker thing. You know, because the copyright laws now are so crazy, YouTube, whenever you upload a video, it puts it through a neural network that listens to the music and figures out who owns it. If you've ever used the app Shazam, you hold it up and the app listens for a couple of seconds and then it tells you what the song is, right? It's a really great app on your iPhone. Open it up, do Shazam. Oh, you like my Mickey? That's my Mickey. You turn it on your phone, you hold it up, and oh, that's what that song is. Every song has a digital footprint. Jingle Bells is a mathematical number different than Happy Birthday, and they store all this stuff, right? So when I upload the Barbara Tucker thing, it listens to the audio and says, oh, in there, that 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute piece, that's a Barbara Tucker record, and they send me a notice saying you have a copyright strike. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. Let's see. Paul says, I used to plug in before called Melodyne. Yes, so Melodyne, I have that plugin, but if you saw back here where I took the audio and I pitched it up and down, which one did I use? I used this one here. Let's go and blow this up for you guys. It's exactly what Melodyne is. No, not this way, this way. Figure out, I should know how to work the software after 45 years, right? Here we go, highlight it. Okay, so Melodyne has notes in it just like this does. And in Melodyne, you basically do the same thing. It would help if we had the song. Here we go.
6 sample synthesizers.
And I still have the delay on there. If I put Melodyne on here, and I think I have it, I got to use another track because this one's all, oh no, wait a minute. I think I could just turn this off and it'll go back to normal. There we go.
6 sample synthesizer.
Let me see if I can get Melodyne to launch. I haven't used it in a million years. Where's Melodyne? What's the company? Look at all these plugins. I gotta go find it now. Melodyne is, what company is Melodyne? By the time somebody answers, I'll probably find it. It's not Melda. It's not this. Output. That's the Vocoder. Got lots of plugins here. I wanted to show you Melodyne real fast. Anybody know what? I don't use it. I haven't used it in so long, I forgot what company it is. Oh, wait. Is it? Well, what Melodyne does that's different from Camel Audio? No, Solomon. Here we go, Melodyne. Okay, let me open up Melodyne. So yeah, all right, yeah, it's an older version. It shows you how long I haven't used it. We don't need the tutorial. So what Melodyne does, I plugged it into the track, and what this will do is this will actually analyze the audio.
6 simple.
I forgot how to do this. You got to go in and you got to record it or something like that.
6 simple synthesizers.
Okay, so what that's done is the same thing that Logic has done. Can I make this window bigger, please, so people could see? No, it drives me crazy that you can't blow this stuff up for people. Ah! Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. So it's taken this and it's basically done the same things, and I can do the same thing in Logic.
Yeah. Whole synthesizers.
It's breaking the audio up into little chops, and now I'm taking it and messing around with it. I could stretch it. Most programs will let you do this now.
6 simple synthesizers.
All right, I messed it up, but you basically get the idea over there. Melodyne will allow you to do it. But if you own Apple Logic, I think, how much is Melodyne these days? $200 or $300? You might as well buy Logic if you have a Mac computer. Ableton Live will give you the same thing without the plugin. This is, Melodyne is kind of like early technology, or the technology, and then Apple went in and I don't know if they stole it or they reverse engineered it, but you get the idea on that. Needle to the groove, he likes the vocoder. Yeah, well, first of all, let me, I don't want to miss anybody. Copyright holders, yeah, it's good for copyright holders and fair use stuff. So I actually get money now from YouTube, because if you go on YouTube and you type in Man Parrish, there's something like 100 videos. There's my videos, but yet there's also people put up, you know, Hip Hop Bebop Buggy Down Bronx videos, and you know, their versions and little edits and their remixes and stuff like that. And I own it, so I'm actually getting some money off of that, which is good. But if I want to do my own version and I start messing with it, I'd probably get pinged by YouTube, and I'll have to go back and say, this is my channel and this is my music, and they'll be okay. And then if I do Boogie Down Bronx the next week, I'd have to go through the same thing again. But if I can't find it, like in the sense of the Barbara Tucker record we were doing, it's not mine and I can't prove it, and I have too many of those, they shut me down. Louise said, I love the vocoder sound using Mantronic's Needle to the Groove. I don't know what they've used. I'm afraid to pull it up. I'd love to pull it up right now and listen to it. But if I do, I'm broadcasting somebody else's music, so I can listen to it offline and see what's going on. Anybody have any questions about this or anything else while you got me? Because we're sort of at the end of the day here. I don't want to make these too long because people will fall asleep. I know there's a little bit of a delay, but if I can help you guys in any way, it would be awesome. I love the, RX-7 is great. I have a video right before this where you go in with RX-7. It's the one that's big above it, and we actually pull out. Oops, sorry. Let's see. I'm trying to get. I'm trying to switch the thing here. Let's switch this over. It makes it a little easier. RX-7 is great. I have the video before this is how to pull vocals out of stuff, so it's great. RX-7 is awesome, but it's $1,100. They do have a demo of it, and you could see if it's something that you like. There are other companies too. There is THANX, T-R-A-X Pro, and it's so powerful that it sends your audio up to a supercomputer using a net. I don't know if it uses neural networks, but it extracts the vocal from the audio, and it's about $200 or $300. But right now, the RX-7 is sounding a lot better. And there's a third company, and I don't have it, but I think that stuff's going to be pretty, pretty common. Because trust me, companies like Ableton Live and Apple are watching this stuff and knowing what people are using. Like they knew people were using Melodyne, and they had to put it into their software. Ableton Live is what a lot of DJs use. which is a great piece of software too. I have it, but I haven't opened it up in a million years because I speak Logic. You know what I mean? This is what I use for recording and mixing because I know it really well. That's the mixing board on Logic. You know, this is the audio on it, and this is how I mix all my records and master all my stuff using this particular program. And as you saw over here, let me go to an audio a plugin track. I have 1,000,001 plugins. All these are, let me go to my audio units instruments. These are all companies that I bought or they gave me, you know, plug-in synthesizers. And these things, like somebody said in the beginning, they just got a DX7. Well, check this out. If I want a DX7, I could just call up an exact replica if it doesn't crash. Oh, no, here we go. Here, this is a DX7 digital synthesizer, right? I have the audio down on this track, but this is the real deal. Let's not mute it. There we go. Okay, why am I? Because I'm soloed, that's why. There we go. And all the we have to do a thing on synthesizers between analog synthesizers and digital synthesizers. But say you wanted to create an old school sound, you wanted to go after, you know, do an art or noise track. Well, we could go in here, and the synthesizer that gave that sound was the, I think I showed this once before, I gotta find it, is the Fairlight. Now, I used to rent these. We used this on Alicia and some other people's stuff. This is a $100,000 synthesizer, right? Now, that sounds like a lot of old school 90s stuff. I wonder if I could find, there's a couple of sounds on here. Where's orchestra? LMNO, octave. There's an orchestra hit which was used, well, this one's called Just Beat It. What is this? That's a sample of the Synclavier, which is another $100,000 synthesizer. This was one of the very earliest samplers, but it had a really great sound. I'll open up the Synclavier that actually made that sound. It was $100,000. We used to rent this because this had a better sequencer in it, but here's the Synclavier. And Michael Jackson had one of these, you know, because he had the money for one of these things. And I forgot what the actual sound is called in here. Is it under percussion? Oh boy, I'm sorry guys. I wish I can. It's not this. Well, as you can see, if you mold that, you get that famous sound off of Michael Jackson stuff. So. That Michael Jackson thing was made off of this synthesizer. I don't remember. Tubular Bell. I'd love to find it for you guys because it is the Michael Jackson thing. Is it in here? I don't remember what the name of it is. What this basically is a giant DX7 synthesizer. DX7 synthesizers, I was one of the only people in New York that knew how to program them back in 1982, so I used to get a lot of sessions. But this was like 20 of these things, you know, thrown in. I can't, I'm looking real hard for you guys because it's amazing if I pull it up. It wasn't a pad. It wasn't an organ, it was maybe into keyboards. I'll have to find it and save it. Did I save it as a sound? No. No, that's just a sound I programmed on this, playing with it one day. Anyway, so that's that. You guys have questions? Can I help with anything? Sounded like a Loverboy song for a moment. Yeah, well, you know, a lot of stuff in the old days. The reason why stuff sounded the way it did in those old days, we only had like 4 or 5 good keyboards. There was a Moog, Mini Moog. There was a Prophet 5. There was a Korg and a Roland or something like that at any given time. And why sounds changed between the 80s and 90s, 2000s is because the technology changed. You know, in the 70s it was all analog gear, and that's why, you know, the Vangelis and early trippy head synthesizer stuff sounded a certain way. It was monophonic, and you had to rely on echo and delay and effects and clever composing to make stuff sound a certain way. When stuff went polyphonic, shortly when I was doing my stuff, I was at the beginning of polyphonic synthesizers. We were able to play chords and sequence them together with, my stuff was before computers and all this stuff. We had to hand lay in stuff. But then later on, you know, this is a new version. This is a new analog emulation of an old synthesizer because this became so popular. These are oscillators and filters. This is the old analog way, and there's a grid matrix over here to program notes and all that. But in the old days, things sounded a certain way strictly because, I just realized when I showed you that stuff, hang on a second, guys. I'm gonna do this real fast. When I showed you those keyboards, I didn't show you, let me get back over here. I didn't show, you heard the sound of the plugin, but you didn't actually see the plugin. I'm sorry. Here's the synclavier. This was the thing that was used for Michael Jackson. Right? I'll just turn on anything right now. Let's go to old types. I don't know. I'll just take anything right now. Man, I wish I can. So this, let's see, can I open this up? Yeah, this is what this thing looked like, and it had a screen that attached to it. And this was $100,000 and had these giant Winchester discs. They were floppy disks that were this big and only held about 125K, maybe 250K of sound, of data, but they were this big. You know, let me show you the Fairlight real quick again. I'm sorry, guys, that I didn't swap over the visuals. Let's see if I can get to the Fairlight over here. CM7 Fairlight. Here we go. I'm going to swap this out. And this is the Michael Jackson. Let's see if we can go to the Michael Jackson thing. I just had it. What was it called? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it's MJ. Where did I have that? Well, I lost the Michael Jackson thing, but you get the idea. It wasn't Beat It. I don't use this that much anymore. It was a lot of work. Used to be able to go into the screen and edit all kinds of things. I had a sequencer in here, and if you press play,
I'm not a robot.
Six.
let me solo this. So you could go into this, and you could. This is how Auto Noise did. All their stuff. Frankie Goes to Hollywood was done with this. Grace Jones, Slave to the Rhythm. All that stuff was done with this. Yeah, Moment of Love, Art of Noise. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. There you go. All right, you guys. I'm kind of trying to do these every Sunday. If I can't, I sometimes have things to do. I got this condo that I rent out through Airbnb, and I got to go up there and glamorously scrub toilets for the next people coming in. But it feeds me since my since I don't get record royalties. I scrub toilets. It ain't that glamorous, but I'm still doing music. I'm on iTunes. Let's see if I can show you that stuff here. Nope. Wait, don't go away yet. No, wait, no. Here, I can put this in the chat room, I think. Did this work? I think it did work. I can't tell on my side, it came up blank, but it should have. I'm on iTunes, I have 120 tracks up there. If you have Spotify, I'm on Spotify and all those kind of streaming stations. You can listen to stuff, manparrish.com. It's old, I gotta get it updated. You found me through Facebook, and you know, thanks guys. Trevor Horn, yeah, I'm trying to get him to see if we can interview him. There's a couple of interviews if you go back through the archives. I'm trying to find more people. I got David Bowie's road manager during the Ziggy Stardust days, and a good friend of mine who worked on some major songs, how he engineered Mark Berry and stuff like that. I have Steve Bronski from Bronski Beat, so go back and listen to that. If you haven't looked at my Man Parrish stories, it's all my life stuff. All right, guys, it pays the bills. Yeah, no dishonor in scrubbing toilets. Nope, I have clean hands. All right, you guys, I want to thank you so much. This is a theme song I made myself, so I didn't, you know, violate copyright on YouTube. Enjoy the music. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.